you know, it's just such a, there's this feel to all of the work that he does that it's just so familiar. Like,
even the idea of them having that, trying to build a country club, you have to wonder what's in the background of that, because they have the ongoing plot where they're trying to put in a golf course during that show. They're trying to develop it and get the land for it. Certain characters are, and kind of reminds me of somebody put a whammy on L.A., right? That screenplay that Zed Daniel wrote a long time ago that got into the corruption, the pedo rings that hang out in places, high elite stations in society.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, and Zeph did that movie, the film Society, as well, which was really controversial sort of at the time because of the content. So it's really, yeah. Yeah, I just wanted to come on and chat about it, I guess, because I've been in this, like, mood to rewatch the whole Twin Peaks series myself. And I was hoping we could get, people interested in rewatching it as well.
It's interesting that it's one of those things that, if you've seen it once, you can almost jump in anywhere and start watching it again, almost in any order. And it's kind of unusual in that respect.
Mm-hmm.
I know there were some things that David Lynch released that were, formerly deleted scenes. There were some deleted scenes in Fire Walk with Me, which is that cable special, that cable TV movie. It was like maybe 2 or 2.5 hours long. That was what came out after. I think that was probably filmed entirely after the finale of the second season, which is when the show was canceled originally. And the Fire Walk with Me, there's some deleted scenes in there that are really important. One of them shows the Air Force Major Garland Briggs. It shows him reading the Bible, and it shows him reading a verse in Revelation, which is very relevant to his character.
Mm-hmm.
So, I think that there's a lot of people that, they even have, I think there's theological ideas that have been contributed to by David Lynch because it really gets people thinking.
Mm-hmm.
I know there's this connection there between this one character that carries a log around, the log lady, they call her, and this Air Force Major. They have a special connection in that show because I guess they were kidnapped by the same cult when they were kids, So it's kind of an unusual thing.
It's an actual log that she carries around, and she carries it around like it's a child, a traumatized child, and she speaks for it, right?
Yeah, I mean, my take on it is it's kind of like that log represents Laura Palmer in a way. So they have a scene there where she's talking to Laura Palmer before she's murdered, and
Well, I almost got like she was channeling the log had witnessed the Laura Palmer's murder. The Twin Peaks opens up with this. The music, by the way, is amazing. It's mesmerizing. It opens up with the scene of Laura Palmer. She's washed up on the shores of the lake in Twin Peaks, and she's murdered. And I think the log lady, the log was present, and I think she's like almost channeling the messages or and she's talking to it like it's it was traumatized by witnessing this. I don't know. It sounds funny to explain some of these scenes and topics, and unless you've seen it, actually watch the series, it's going to sound really, really funny.
Yeah, they have you have to, when you watch it, it's different because you have an appreciation for the symbolism that's being used. I mean, when they introduce this lady that carries the log, she's turned the lights on and off in the town hall, and those lights going on and off, that corresponds to a bad fluorescent light that starts flickering in the coroner's office when Special Agent Dale Cooper is first showing that maybe he has another side to him. And this is kind of like people say that the Masonic checkerboard represents good and evil, right? They say the white's the good and the black is the evil. And so this is like one of the symbolism things that Lynch is sort of like making an elliptical reference to. But the thing about Lynch is he's not one of those people that has an agenda. You see a lot of movies that have some kind of agenda, like they're promoting the Freemasons or they're promoting a liberal agenda or something. But he just kind of makes things his own, and he has his own way of doing things.
He pulls
so,
like,
even when he does something which looks like it's a Masonic lodge, it's not even a Masonic lodge. It's like just something different. Mm-hmm. It's just very Lynchian.
Yes. In fact, that's a coined term. Very Lynchian. Sort of surreal, right?
And if you notice, there's something called the Bookhouse Club. And if you look at the patch to that Bookhouse Club, it's got an evergreen tree and a sword in front of the evergreen tree. I don't know the history of that symbol, but I think that evergreen tree is like a representation of fire. So it's kind of like they're showing you a flaming sword, which would be, I suppose it would have representation for what's blocking the Garden of Eden.
Interesting.
So that would be an example there. And there's just all kinds of interesting symbolism like that throughout David Lynch's work.
You were talking about there's that I digress. Earlier in the conversation, you were talking about how he depicts people being possessed or taken over, and there's that scene where I don't know if you remember I think it was his name. His character was the Arm, and I'm trying to think if it was season 3. Then
You're talking about the shoe salesman?
Yes. He's being questioned. He's being questioned by Dale Cooper in the interrogation room, and he's sitting down, and they're all standing around. I forget who else. I think David Lynch is in the room. I'm not sure if I recall. Not David Lynch, but the other guy, Dale Cooper, and there was another guy in the room, and I think that...
Is that McGraw Farrer's character? Is that his name?
Yeah,
that's,
maybe
Albert?
the Native American officer, but he gets taken over by Bob. And I find it interesting that this Bob character, he's an energy that takes over. Laura Palmer's father, I think it's at some point as well, but it's an entity. It's a dark energy, and there's like a reference there to Bob, and I think of Beelzebub, and it just comes to mind. I don't know why.
Yeah, I think also there might be a thing there connected to like a Cain murder demon, because I think Bob is kind of like saying brother. It's like Bubba is a brother, and I don't know how strong that is, but I think that's part of it. It's kind of like a sarcastic thing. It's like, oh, you're my Abel's telling Cain, oh, you're my brother. After Cain murders Abel. So, it's kind of interesting that the police, get descriptions of this guy and they get pictures of him, and they're thinking that he's a man, right? But when they get to the end of it, they realize that he's a demon that's taking people over.
Yeah, and it's scary. It's scary.
Yeah, this is one of the few shows that's dealing with multi-personality disorder in a reasonable way. I remember a long time ago there was something called the Three Faces of Eve, and it's just interesting to think about how that even got its title. Back in there's a movie called The Game with
Michael Douglas.
Michael Douglas in it.
Yeah.
And this movie called The Game, it was showing the gang stalkers, right? And they had a scene in there where they're singing White Rabbit. Isn't that the name of the song? And it says where the line happens where Michael Douglas comes on a suicide note being planted on him. They say the line is remember what the Dormouse said. And if you look up what the Dormouse said, that famous song, right? If you look up what the Dormouse said, Dormouse in Alice in Wonderland is talking about three sisters being at the bottom of a well. And my take on that is that when you have something about three sisters being at the bottom of a well, this is like it's like an allusion to ideas that people have about Eve, and Eve having to deal with Cain and Abel and Seth, and how traumatic it was, to have Cain murder Abel. And I think you can see in Genesis that Eve actually says that God has appointed another seed beside Abel when her third son is born, named Seth. So one tends to assume that people that are involved in this traumatic abuse, they seem to have some interest in recreating these sorts of problems that you see in the book of Genesis. And so they I think they name things after it. And that's sort of my view of why they have this title called The Three Faces of Eve. And I think this Three Faces of Eve concept is something that David Lynch has latched onto, and you see it being used in Twin Peaks quite a bit. I mean, an example there would be Wyndham Earle targets three women, and there's a connection between the three women. I don't know if you remember that, but he has playing cards, and he actually puts on each queen, he puts the photograph of the three women that he's targeting. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
I think that has something to do with this, concept of, Eve having three faces. And that's it. It's an occultic concept, if nothing else, and you can see that they have the occultists in that show are definitely using that concept. And I think, bringing that to national attention is an important thing. So, because I don't know anything else that's really doing things like that.
No, and with the internet, so much of this stuff coming up on the internet, it's interesting to rewatch the series again. Oh, and I wanted to talk about the line where with the Heal Your Heart in season 3, where is it Lynch that actually says that, his character, or is it Dale Cooper?
It's Lynch as Gordon Cole, the FBI director. I think he's like a deputy director. And he is. It's coming up in the context of some people in the DEA are trying to get someone fired because he's a transvestite, and it would be something that's not in the national interest. So David Lynch's character is trying to tell these people that they got to fix their hearts or die, because they're just doing the wrong thing in his view. And I think it's a broader concept, and it has to do with